Building on architecture assurance across initiation to sustainment, you now focus on the artifacts that make those decisions clear, repeatable, and defensible. An architecture blueprint and a high level design are not paperwork for compliance. They are evidence of how you thought, what you chose, what you rejected, and how you will protect outcomes when delivery pressure rises. When you write these documents well, you reduce ambiguity, prevent rework, and give leaders confidence that the solution is safe to fund and safe to operate. With that purpose clear, you should understand why architecture documents often get ignored. They fail when they are too long, too technical for decision makers, too vague for delivery teams, or disconnected from real risks and constraints. They also fail when they read like a product brochure, when ownership is unclear, or when they do not capture trade-offs and residual risk. Your goal is not to write more. Your goal is to write clearer. With failure patterns in mind, you can now define what an architecture blueprint should achieve. A blueprint is the big picture architecture narrative that shows how the solution fits into the enterprise and how it aligns to target state direction, principles, standards, and capability uplift. It is meant to be read by leaders, program sponsors, and delivery leadership. It answers the strategic questions: why this change matters, what the enterprise impact is, and how the solution supports the future direction without creating fragmentation. With the blueprint understood, you now define the high-level design in a way that makes it immediately useful. A high-level design is the decision-focused design overview that gives delivery teams and governance forums enough clarity to build consistently. It explains the key components, boundaries, integrations, data flows, security controls, operational support expectations, and non-functional requirements at a level that can be assured and governed. It is not low-level build instructions. It is the design contract that prevents teams from interpreting the solution in conflicting ways. With both artifacts defined, you now distinguish them so you use the right document for the right audience. The blueprint describes context, intent, and alignment across the enterprise. The high-level design describes the solution shape, responsibilities, and major design choices at a level that enables delivery and assurance. When you keep this separation clear, you avoid the common mistake of writing one document that tries to serve everyone and satisfies no one. With the separation set, you now adopt the first page rule that makes your documents defensible. On the first page, you state what decision is being sought or what design is being proposed, why it matters, and what success looks like. If a senior leader reads only the first page, they should still understand the purpose, the value, and the biggest risks. This is how you respect executive time and increase the likelihood that your document actually drives a decision. With the first page rule applied, you now design your writing for 3 audiences without confusing any of them. Leaders need clarity on outcomes, cost implications, risk posture, and trade-offs. Delivery teams need clarity on boundaries, integration expectations, security and operational requirements, and what is non-negotiable. Governance forums need evidence of alignment to standards, decision records, exception requests, and residual risk acceptance pathways. A strong blueprint and high-level design make each audience feel seen. With the audiences in mind, you now include the core content that makes architecture documents hold up under pressure. You define scope and non-scope so people stop assuming the document promises everything. You include assumptions and constraints so stakeholders can challenge them early rather than discovering them late. You document key decisions and trade-offs so the reasoning is transparent. You define risks and mitigations so leadership understands the risk posture, not just the design shape. With core sections established, you now handle architecture views in a way that improves clarity. A view is not a diagram for its own sake. A view is a way to show one dimension clearly, such as context, components, data flows, trust boundaries, integration pathways, or operational responsibilities. You choose a small set of views that tell the story without overwhelming the reader. When diagrams exist to support decisions, they increase trust. When they exist to decorate, they waste time. With views selected, you now elevate non-functional requirements because they are where many projects collapse after approval. You capture expectations for availability, recoverability, performance, scalability, maintainability, and supportability. You show how the design intends to meet these expectations at a high level, and you note where gaps exist or where further validation is required. This makes the document defensible because it shows you designed for production reality, not just feature delivery. With non-functional requirements in place, you now include security design in a way that governance and leaders can trust. You describe identity and access control expectations, data protection posture, monitoring and logging intent, trust boundaries, and privilege access considerations. You also note any required alignment to relevant control frameworks in your environment, and you document exceptions and residual risk acceptance pathways where needed. This prevents security from becoming a last-minute surprise and makes the design defensible during audits or incidents. With security visible, you now address operational support because a solution without ownership is a future incident waiting to happen. You define who owns the service, who supports it, what the support model is, and how incidents and changes will be managed. You also state what monitoring and alerting outcomes are expected and what operational readiness must be true before go live. This makes the high-level design credible to operations teams and prevents the common failure where delivery finishes and operations inherits chaos. With operations covered, you now use the document to control reality rather than pretending reality does not exist. If the solution cannot meet a standard due to constraints, you document the exception, why it exists, what mitigations apply, who accepts residual risk, and when it will be reviewed. This protects the enterprise by making risk explicit, and it protects delivery teams by giving them a legitimate pathway rather than forcing hidden workarounds. A defensible document does not claim perfection. It manages imperfection transparently. With content completeness in place, you now focus on readability because readability determines adoption. You use clear headings, short paragraphs, and consistent terminology. You avoid jargon and avoid abbreviations so the document can be read aloud clearly in executive forums and through voice narration when needed. You also keep the writing decision oriented, so the reader always knows why a section exists and what it means for the project. With writing principles established, you can now picture what this looks like in practice. Imagine you are proposing a modern customer services platform. In the blueprint, you explain the business outcomes, how the platform aligns to target state direction, how it uplifts key capabilities, and how it avoids duplication across the enterprise. In the high-level design, you describe the major components, integration boundaries, customer data flows, identity and access expectations, monitoring and logging intent, and operational ownership. You also document key trade-offs, such as choosing a phased migration approach to reduce disruption, and you record any exceptions where legacy constraints require compensating controls. When leadership reads these documents, they can approve the direction with confidence. When delivery teams read them, they can build without guesswork. As you close the lecture, you should recognize the common mistakes that make architecture documents weak and untrusted. Documents fail when they are generic, when they copy templates without meaning, when they hide risks, and when they avoid clear decisions to keep everyone happy. They also fail when they do not define scope. do not capture trade-offs, and do not define operational ownership. You avoid these mistakes by writing with intent, documenting decisions, and making accountability visible. Let's now discuss the key takeaways from what you learned so far so you can write clear, defensible architecture blueprints and high-level designs. An architecture blueprint and a high-level design are evidence of decisions that reduce ambiguity, prevent rework, and build executive confidence. The blueprint explains why the change matters and how it aligns to enterprise direction, while the high-level design explains the solution shape and key design choices in a way delivery teams can build and governance forums can assure. A defensible document makes decisions, scope, assumptions, constraints, trade-offs, risks, mitigations, and residual risk acceptance pathways explicit. You use a small set of purposeful architecture views to clarify complexity, and you make non-functional requirements, security design, and operational ownership visible rather than implied. Clear writing, consistent terminology, and readable structure increase adoption. And adoption is what makes the document valuable. As you move into the next lecture, start treating architecture documents as your decision evidence and your trust building tool, not as templates you fill out. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next videos in this playlist. Like this video so it reaches more leaders and architects who want to write architecture documents that stand up to scrutiny. Comment with the document you struggle with most, whether it is blueprint writing, high-level design clarity, capturing non-functional requirements, or documenting exceptions and residual risk. Share this video with someone who is preparing for an architecture review. Because clear, defensible documents are often the difference between smooth approval and painful rework.